my video started going viral, and it was just me collecting $147 worth of quarters, and it hit almost a million views in one day. Wow. And I started getting calls from everybody under the sun. I checked like 3 days later, and someone wired $57,000 to me. I was like, this is ludicrous. Like, someone just wired money to me. I've never met him before.
Like, that guy needs to be checked.
Part of my mind's still on the farmer in the cornfield at the $400 a month rental that my parents could barely afford. You either are growing and you're trying to achieve something bigger, or you're on the decline.
Any advice for folks trying to start off on their entrepreneurial journey?
Why do you believe that you can't do this thing? Well, because everybody's against me. Why are there people out there that have this perception on life and everything? There's so much opportunity out there.
As you think about the next couple of years, what do you think your focus looks like? Welcome back to Owned and Operated. Today on the show, I have Brandon Schlichter from Investment Joy.
Howdy.
Welcome.
Great to be here.
Yeah, this is fun. Fellow Ohio boy.
Yep.
Just under Columbus.
Mm-hmm.
And absolutely massive following. You're in real estate. You have laundromats. You have a commercial roofing business. I'm sure there's more. There's a car wash. I forgot about the car wash. So I'm really excited to talk to you today. This should be fun.
I'm thrilled to be here.
Cool. I would love to hear a little bit of the origin story, and then we can talk about like what happened since then. But like, your day job is running a massive social media platform that you've used to talk about laundromats and car washes and now roofing.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd love to hear how that started.
So I'm born and raised in Circleville, Ohio, which is about 20 miles south of Columbus. Grew up on a farm in the middle, literally in the middle of a cornfield. After about 1994, they made the choice of planting corn totally around our house.
Nice.
It's not that we were farmers. Our family got evicted when I was 6 years old, and we were just trying to find any house that we could live in. And we ended up in a little tenant house outside Circleville. And it's just, my dad was a truck driver. He was an owner operator, which was terrible for him in the 90s.
Yeah. I mean, that's good now. Right?
It can be good now, but there's a problem in owner operated trucks, in the sense that you're your own business owner and you're going to make all this money.
That's the pitch.
And it's like I found out when I got into real estate. As an agent, it's like, you own your own business, and it comes with the benefits of it, but it also comes with all these pitfalls, and you're doing it by yourself.
Yeah.
So, my dad was in the owner-operator trucking business from 85, 86-ish up till 2000, 2001. Never made any money on it. He blew an engine in 1992 and 1998.
Wow.
And it was, $60,000 between two engines.
Wow.
They put on a credit card. My mom sold door-to-door cosmetics with Avon.
Yeah.
I throw that name out there on a lot of videos, and I guess all my Gen Z audience has no clue what Avon is. So my social media team has said, stop saying Avon brand and say door-to-door cosmetics. Okay, well, that sounds kind of hokey, but whatever. So grew up, just never made any money. The big upgrade in our life, family situation, was when my dad stopped driving a truck and he went to work at Walmart in Circleville because he had a consistent job that he wasn't losing money hand over fist, which is weird, but it was nice. He started working there when I was like 14, 15 years old. But then when I turned 18, he had a heart attack, and he was just unable to work for the rest of his life. I went and got a job in Groveport, Ohio, which is kind of like a suburb of Columbus, working at a warehouse, doing just logistics fulfillment, like, your normal Amazon worker is today. My twin brother went to work for the city of Circleville, picking up trash for the parks department. So, just the normal stuff. We did get evicted again when I was 18, and it was just a real weird time because my dad couldn't work. My brother and I were supporting our parents.
Yeah.
I went out to the real world to get a job. We had kind of had some entrepreneurial forays, my brother and I did, prior to that point, but we just couldn't pursue anything like that, trying to help keep our parents above water.
Yeah.
So we did that for a few years. I got to the point I wanted to get married and have the normal life of, and had this aspiration for being a one income household. Because effectively that's how I grew up. My dad did the truck driving thing, and mom's door-to-door cosmetic sales were only very part-time. So she was at home with my brother and I pretty much the whole time, which is nice. I talk about being poor growing up, and people think they lament about my hardships growing up. It's kind of an intentional thing because my parents didn't want to both be gone from my brother and I our whole life, which I appreciate at this point.
In the trades, every wasted minute costs you. Supply House makes it easy with over 280,000 products from 500 plus trusted brands. Plus, they have exclusive perks through their Trademaster program like better pricing, free shipping, and priority support. Get 5% off your first order at supplyhouse.com with code OOFIVE. Supply House. Real people, real service.
So I was working at the warehouse and was like, how can I get out of this? How can I do, aspire to a one-income household? I got looking around to what opportunities are there in Circleville, Ohio. And the only thing that I saw that I could do in an approachable manner was to get a real estate license. So I did that in 2006, right as we were headed, right as we were headed towards the foreclosure crisis. I was like, this is a career for me to get in, and did pretty well overall. I got
mainly serving Circleville, or did you go to Columbus? Because that's a 45-minute.
Yeah, I did some Southern Columbus, but what I really got involved in heavy duty in 2006, 7, and 8 was in the foreclosure world.
Oh, sure. I know a bunch of people that they made it happen.
I ran into a guy and all he did was broker price opinions, and he was making $50 an hour doing that. And he got me on with a couple of the different firms, and I did broker price opinions for about 3 years, made good money on it, got married when I was 21. Did that for quite some time. And then the weird foray and change to social media and media in general was I started this blog back in 2009, and it was the phone number and contact information for every foreclosure department in the United States. And it was, if you see an orange sticker on your neighbor's door, this is the person to call to help get information on that from the bank. So I think it was the #1 foreclosure blog online for a reasonable time period.
That's crazy.
So I was still doing real estate, working for a broker in Columbus, doing the blog thing on the side, closing leads from that, and then came to the realization it's like, okay, I'm selling a couple houses on the side, but I'm also HER Realty's #1 outbound sales guy. I did more volume in 1 month from the blog than people did in a year.
Yeah.
And
I mean, distribution is it's the great equalizer.
It blew my mind. So I was like, okay, I've got to figure out how to do my real estate stuff with social media or online, whatever. So then 2013 rolled around. I've been doing a little bit of everything, ran a bunch of blogs, ran a bunch of websites. I said, well, I can use my social media appeal to go and find some investors for real estate. So, by 2013, I'd been in the business for 7 years. Had unending properties in Circleville and Circleville, Southern Columbus area that were $25,000, $30,000, and we're at the bottom of the market. And I'm like, these properties all make money. I can rent a house out for $1,000 a month, and I can buy it for $25,000. Like, I got to find capital now. And during my career as a sales agent, I never run into a poor landlord. They all had tons of money. Well, I need to get an investment property. So I started getting online forums, blogs, websites like that, and just started asking people for capital. And I had sold some websites off, so I had some money burning a hole in my pocket. I was like, I can go buy a couple rentals, or I can take some money and I can go find some investors to see if I can get more capital. And within 1 year, I had been able to get about $400,000 worth of capital together. And we went out and bought 18 rentals, took that portfolio and kept getting attention for the portfolio. I started my Investment Joy website and brand back real early in that period in 2013. Got covered by Bigger Pockets, was on a couple of their newsletters. And that was just being hit by it was like getting hit by a freight train. I started having people call me from all over saying, hey, I see you're buying these $25,000 houses in the Columbus area. We like the Central Ohio area as opposed to Cleveland, Northern Ohio areas, which have always had.
Are you doing this on YouTube? Were you creating content around this yet?
I was doing it on a blog.
Okay.
So if someone would go to investmentjoy.com and go on the Wayback Machine to 2013.
So we started as a blog.
Yeah. Okay. I started as a blog because I was like, after I got into investments, I'm like, I've made it. I don't need to do anything else more in my life than just buy single family detached homes and fix them up, because it's like I can take $25,000, buy a house, put 25 in it, and I can have a nice house that rents for $750 to $1,000, and just the math makes sense. So I did that, got covered by Bigger Pockets, and I got all these calls, and I just opened up a bank account, and I said, if anybody wants to send me money, and you want to buy some properties with me, here's the routing number, here's the account number, just go send me some money. I checked like 3 days later and someone wired $57,000 to me. And I'm like, and he sends me a DM or an email and said, hey, I just wired you some money. Let's go buy some houses. I was like, this is ludicrous. Like someone just wired money to me. I've never met him before.
That's definitely ludicrous.
Yeah, it is ludicrous.
Like that guy needs to be checked.
Yeah. So I ended up just working with different investors, and we would always partner. I didn't want to manage somebody else's property. I don't want to manage anybody's property that I don't own or at least partner with. So I got in up till 2019, did all these partnerships, investing in properties, bought a trailer park. Then 2019 rolls around. I'd been looking at different kinds of investments, one of which was a laundromat. Ran into the laundromat that I'm pretty well known for on social media. And I tried to buy that in 2016, but couldn't. And it blew my mind that the lady that had the property, she was trying to get $60,000 out of it. She was doing $8,500 a month in revenue.
Wow.
And I just was like, this is a 60.
I mean, today in 2025, that's like probably $1 million asset.
Yeah, it's probably not $1 million, but it's, I would say it's probably worth it, knowing the real estate environment in Southern Ohio, maybe 450.
Okay.
But
like very underpriced.
Well, it would be okay. Yeah. Well,
like
at 60,000. Oh yeah. 60,000 is ludicrous. Yeah. 60,000 is ludicrous.
Yeah.
So I tried to buy it and the deal fell through, but I bought it off the owner that bought it. And he ran it down quite a bit.
Yeah.
But it just blew my mind that there was some business or something I could get into that would perform better than, 10 or 15 houses.
Yeah.
And by 2019, I had 140 doors and was just like, this is going to be my life. This is what I set out for in 2013, bought the laundromat, and the laundromat was making great money day one. Did some YouTube videos on it because I was like, this is valuable content. I'm going to produce content seriously on it. Yeah. And after I started filming at the laundromat in April 2019, October the 7th, my video started going viral, and it was just me collecting $147 worth of quarters, and it hit almost a million views in one day. Wow. And I started getting calls from everybody under the sun, anywhere from stalkers, psychos, creeps and stuff to like people that ran private equity. I got the call from the vice president of one of the largest telecommunication companies in the United States, just saying, hey, I watch your content. I think what you're doing is great. And it's kind of catapulted me in this world where now it's like, okay, so I had this goal of buying just houses, and then it evolved into buying small businesses. And then 21, I bought some car washes. Yeah. And I've always had people tell me, you need to think bigger, think bigger, think bigger. And it's like, well, part of my mind's still on the farm or in the cornfield at the $400 a month rental that my parents could barely afford. So I'm trying to be cautious and careful with the things I invest in, but I also do want to think bigger because I want to be able to buy some time back. I want to be able to build some things where I don't have to be super hands-on and I can do what I want to do. So did the car washes, and then last April I bought this commercial roofing firm out of Rockford, Illinois. Yeah. We did a national search. I looked at a dozen-ish different companies.
Roofing or just any company?
Any company. So
we're going with the thesis of we're buying a bigger business.
Yes.
Not necessarily.
I want a long-term business, something that's been in business for at least 10 years, has good tax returns, because I'm in the laundromat and car wash industry, and people make jokes about it. It's legitimate.
It's wild. We tried to buy a couple of these and it was crazy. Like they would hand us like maybe receipts or pictures, and then here's the water bill and that's the expenses.
Yeah. I would say 50% of the owners that I've talked to, and this maybe it's just the owners I talked to, but at least 50% of them are underreporting their income by at least 25%, if not more. And you think about that from an accounting perspective, you're underreporting your top line revenue, but you're trying to overreport your expenses. So when it comes time to get financing, you can't prove anything. So I'm used to that world. So when we looked for a company, I wanted to clean books, I wanted a long-term history, and I wanted it in a market segment that, everybody wants something recession-proof. That's not going to exist, but I want something somewhat recession resistant. Yeah. So, in roofing, at least you need to have a roof on at some point. And it's not the only company that I looked at that was recession resistant, but we looked at a dozen different businesses. My favorite was an industrial and commercial electrician in Northern Florida. Loved it. Did about $9.5 million a year top line revenue. The SDE was in the $4 million range. So it would have been an acquisition in the 2.3 to 2.5 EBITDA range, or at least multiple of SDE. Loved it, but I couldn't get the permitting for it. In the state of Florida for commercial and industrial electrician, you have to have a permit that shows that you've been a commercial electrician for no less than 5 years, which I can't do that. So that deal failed. I looked at a trucking company in Indiana. I looked at a commercial roofing firm in Cleveland. I looked at a contract carrier for Greyhound buses. I looked at a paving company in Colorado. Loved it. The books were miserable. I looked at an excavation company in Colorado. Books were miserable on it. Looked at a bunch of different other businesses that weren't nearly as interesting, but those were the top picks. And then we ended up with this commercial roofing firm out of Rockford, Illinois, that's been around for 26 years. The owner was just at retirement. He had tried to get his family on board to take over the company. It's the double-edged sword of being a parent and successful.
Yep.
You build up this great company and your kids don't have to do the same thing that you did. The gentleman we bought the company off of, he's worked every single day in his life and it's been hard work. And he built up this awesome thing, but it also provided his children the ability to not have to live the same kind of lifestyle. So when it comes for the next generation to inherit it, it's very difficult to pass the torch on to them.
Yeah, we see that a lot in our industry.
Yeah.
It's uncommon to see the kids take over. Really uncommon.
But you're second generation in this, correct?
I'm third.
Third.
So I bought it 9 years ago. So it's obviously rare to see a third generation, but it's tough, and I think a lot of people ask us what happens. And I think we have the same concern that this guy might have had where, hey, but like my kids are 4 and 6. And by the time, like, businesses only do two things: they sell or they shut down. Who they sell to, like, are they selling to employees in an ESOP? Are they selling to your kids? Or are they selling to an outside party? Maybe. But they sell or they shut down. And like, by the time we get to my kids potentially being capable, like, what are they going to do with a $500 million business?
Yeah.
Like, nothing. Like, you can't hand that to a 25-year-old. So, I really don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah. And that's the thing that to a smaller scale, I have people always say the same thing with my kids. And it's like, well, and it's always odd because of my YouTube following. So I've built up this following with over 1 billion video views. We're at a little over 6 million followers. And I have that question all the time. Well, what are your kids going to do? Or they'll get really nasty and say, oh, I wish I was your kid because you're going to hand them everything. And it's like, for my kids, I've got 5 for reference. It's all I want them to do is whatever you do in life, be excellent at it and serve God. That's like, and help other people is the third one. It's like, those are the 3 things I'm trying to instill in my kids, but taking over the company is not in any of those things. If my kids don't have a passion for any of the companies that I run, they can't do it in a way that's going to help other people, then I'll sell them or I'll do something else. Because on my companies that I've acquired, not so much the roofing company, but laundromats, car washes, and especially my rentals, most of them were inherited in some way, or they were passed to a second generation. Yeah. And the second generation didn't want them, or they weren't able to keep the sustaining growth. My dad always had this great saying growing up. As much as he struggled with his business and everything, he said, as far as he was concerned in life, there were two things: you either grow or die. And I constantly go back to him saying that because there's a lot of wisdom in, you either are growing and you're trying to achieve something bigger or better, or do something better, do something more significant, or you're on the decline. Because if you try to stabilize things, you're really on a slow decline, whether you can perceive it or not. And I see that with every business that I run into. You're trying to get a little better, or you're not. You're going the other way. So with my companies, it's, I'm more than happy to sell them out at some point, but I like the idea of doing an ESOP or something that will be able to continue itself for a long period of time. Because I'm sure you feel the same way that I do about my employees. I've got a lot of employees that I truly love them. I think they're great people. I'm glad that I get to play a role in their life and helping them to take care of their family and so on. And the last thing that I want to do is to sell the company out, bring somebody else in, and then to change everything. Yeah. Because I cannot vet with unlimited ability somebody else to have the same moral level that I have, or the same compassion towards my employees. Yeah. We just saw a roll up here recently in the commercial roofing area, and a year and a half into it, and it's absolutely miserable for the employees. And, if I needed another reminder, there it is to be cautious on that front.
Yeah, we've talked pretty openly with our team members. Like our hope is we're aiming at 100 million by 2030. Like it's on the wall everywhere as you walk through the building. But eventually we hope to bring on investor money. And our goal, we've talked about this very openly with our leadership team, is like we want to make millionaires in the process. Like we want to help that to be a thing. So we want people to be able to invest alongside as we continue to grow and drive towards the mission. So we've been pretty blatant about it.
That's awesome.
But yeah, again, businesses only do two things, and nobody wants us to shut down. So like we have to continue. We have to continue.
Yeah.
So you've owned the roofing company for a year?
A year. We bought it April 29th.
Yeah.
So whenever this podcast drops, it's going to be over a year.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
yeah. Can you walk me through the business a little bit? Customer mix, what's the average ticket? Like,
sure.
We have a lot of roofers listen.
Yeah. So when we took it over, they did probably 90% commercial, 10% residential. And just from my standpoint, there's no money in residential. We're a labor union firm. So we do a lot of prevailing wage jobs.
Okay.
And a pretty reasonable amount of non-prevailing wage. So when you're paying a foreman, $55 an hour plus benefits, it's very hard to make money on a commercial roof. That in our area, the average residential ticket's maybe 25 grand. You really, to hit that 25 grand, you've really got to be in the insurance world, which they really did not have a process for the insurance
like residential
situation. But for commercial, it's a much different sales cycle.
Yeah.
You're building a relationship with a general contractor, a facilities manager, an owner. You're working with them. You're sitting down with their capital expense planning team, and you're figuring out everybody's goals, which I love about the business, because in residential, when I deal with residential customers and different things, there's typically a lot of emotions involved. And with commercial, it's numbers, it's facts, and it's yes or no, or yes, but we have to wait a year, or whatever it is. So our current mix right now, the average ticket's around $250,000, maybe $300,000 this year. And I say maybe because this year we're going for bigger tickets. We're bidding on one job right now that's in the $4 to $4.4 million range. Just trying to go with bigger jobs rather than.
So that's like customer mix, right? Like you didn't necessarily raise price to go from 250 to 3. No. Just totally different customers.
We just went with different customers. There was a lot of hesitation and lack of desire on the older owner's part to go after bigger jobs, just because I think one end he didn't like the risk, and then two on his end was the capital planning, because you're paying.
Oh yeah,
you could be spending $1 million on labor on that $4 million job up front before you ever get reimbursed on just the labor, let alone materials. So
how does payment work? Like, do you get because it's a 6-month project? Or?
If it's a 6-month project, it really comes down to the terms that you negotiate with the client. Usually a lot of them we see, they'll bill in arrears, like net 30.
Yeah.
Once the labor is completed. So you'll work for 30 days, you'll bill for it. If the GC is good, then he'll pay you promptly. If the GC is not good, then he won't pay promptly. And I think the average in commercial construction is about, I think it's a 57-day average between work performed and the time you get a check. You
get a check, yeah.
Yeah. So there's a pretty heavy, there's a pretty,
it's a lot.
Yeah. It's a large float, and it also kills a lot of the small 100%. Guys.
Yeah, 100%.
They can't float 57 days on $1 million project, let alone a multi-million-dollar project. So we've spent a lot of time working on our capital planning, our outlook, but we've been able to grow average ticket pretty reasonably, but it's also come with the additional benefit of a higher productivity per worker per day. That's kind of our goal of, I have 16 laborers right now working for me on a job site. What is our average margin per person per day, and what's our average revenue per person per day? And we're very concerned about aiming for margin per person per day, which was not a metric when we took the company over. The old owner liked doing, these small jobs, and they're, $50,000, $60,000 roofs. Payment was super prompt for a $50,000 to $60,000 roof, which is a huge benefit to get prompt payment. But it's also, we're coming into the job site and we have one full day of setup. We do the job for 3 days, let's say, and then on the fourth day, day setup 1, 2, 3, 4, we do the labor and the work. Day 5, we tear down and go from the job site. So that's 5 days, and we have a day of setup and a day of tear down. So
is $10,000 a day good or bad?
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay.
But it's also, that's $10,000 a day on revenue. It's not margin.
Yeah.
And the margin on that might be $20,000. So now your margin for a crew is less.
Yeah.
So you start getting not great numbers. And then what happens if you have extra laborers and you don't want to lay them off, which we don't want to lay anybody off. So now we're going to bring in extra workers on the job site. Well, now we get the job done quicker. Now we don't need to be on the roof for 3 days. We could get it done in 2 days. So what do we do with that extra day? So you start to get to this point where you're dealing a lot of job site planning just to make sure that if you overshoot or undershoot, that your guys are taken care of. And with those larger jobs, we have found out, generally speaking, they're not as bad.
Yeah.
We do have a day of setup. We do have a day of teardown, and then we have 30 days of labor in between the two.
Yeah.
So now if we overshoot or undershoot, well, it doesn't matter. We can go to another job site. We've got, a couple days of float, or maybe even a week of float for the next job. So we're able to go on to those next jobs, which has been nice. The margins are pretty decent, in our region.
What is margin in commercial roofing?
In the greater Chicago area, it's about 20%.
Gross margin.
Yes.
So revenue minus field labor minus materials.
That number is going to be closer to probably 25 to 27%.
Okay.
Than overhead. And then overhead is whatever it is, depending on how efficient you are.
Yeah. It doesn't sound like there's a lot in commercial roofing.
It's not bad. I see a lot of teams that are overblown on their overhead.
Do you count foremen in cost of goods sold or overhead?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that makes sense because they're on site all day, right?
Yes.
It's a live project manager.
Yes. Yeah. So, yes.
Yeah, that makes sense.
For foremen, they're in cost of goods sold. We have an overall project manager that heads up over the foreman. He's in our overhead.
Yeah.
So, and then everything else, office staff and support staff. And we're growing our estimation team because rapid estimation is very important. Rapid, accurate estimations.
Yeah.
Very important for commercial contracting because that's one thing that we have found out is we can have the lowest and the best bid on the face of this planet for a roofing assembly. But then if the general contractor doesn't get the job, we're out of luck there.
We had someone on the show. This was like 4 years ago. His name's Furkan Yus, and he runs a commercial flooring business. And he built, this was pre-Ukraine stuff, but he built a estimating team for commercial flooring in Ukraine.
Okay.
So then they get the opportunity to bid, and then Ukraine works, I guess, 12 hours apart. So it's a 24/7 bid shop now.
Oh yeah.
Which is kind of interesting. And they're churning out, their closing rate is 2% or 3%. It's very, very small, but they do a lot of at-bats, which was kind of wild. And they really accelerated that process.
Yes. We're if I had a 2% close rate, that'd be awful. But there are a lot of firms out there that do that. I was recently
just firing them off. It's every single request we place a bid. So
yes,
his goal, it was kind of funny. He was aiming for $5 million, and he was bidding $100 million. And I was like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's wild.
We're definitely not wanting to do, was it 100 million in bids a year or a month?
A year.
A year.
A year.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it was 10 million a month or something like that.
Yeah. Well, our goal,
I want to reread the show notes now, but yeah.
Our goal is definitely around 100 million in bids this year. But my goal is also to close 20% of them. So I want to do 20 million this year.
Yeah.
But I've run into these another gentleman that bought a demolition company. He's a GC, but he also his specific crew runs demo on jobs. And he has said the same thing. The old owner was only bidding, $100,000 a week
Yeah.
in estimates. And
it takes energy.
It does. And it also takes a good estimation crew and a good field crew to go out and make sure that the site survey and everything's done correctly. So that when you get your bid and you give them your scope, it's correct. And that was like his thing that he struggled through. And we were on the end of this with increasing our estimation capabilities and our bid flow. And he was like, yeah, I never would have thought I'm bidding $3 million of demolition a week.
Yeah.
And he said, because of that, he said, our close rate's significantly lower than the old owner, but
way more
the amount of work we'll do. And I think he was
just more at bats.
Yeah. I think he's on track to do like 10 to 15 million this year. Which is
like, what are they even demoing? Like old factories or houses?
I feel like it was like, he did a lot of like concrete demo. He was out west too.
Yeah. There's a company that I have to have them on the show, but they became nationwide from this, and their name is Independence Excavation. And they're in Independence, Ohio.
Oh, that's awesome.
And like I flew to Vegas 5 or 6 years ago for some work thing, and like they had a sign out there, and they started as just a demo crew. I think exactly like this, and they were just digging holes, and then they started bidding absolutely everywhere, and now they're all over. Yeah.
That's awesome. And I the guys that I see that are doing pretty well, they look at what works and what doesn't. It's, it's the terrible thing, or to me, it's terrifying going and buying a company, and to an extent, you're buying a brand name. You're buying some assets, but you're really buying the data. You're buying the former owner's history of what works and what doesn't from his perspective, which in our case was great. Our former owner knew a lot of good stuff. He's done great work for himself, self-educating him in that world. But then there's also a lot of blind spots that we've discovered that we've had to go through and understand with us being new to the commercial roofing industry, how do we deal with these things?
It is a small company too. I mean, the infrastructure is small. Like there's not an army of, estimators or project managers, or you're having to build a lot of it.
Yeah. And that's what we're doing. And we're, our team in Rockford's doing good. It's the first company I've bought that it's mostly remote for me.
Yeah.
I drive there 1 week a month.
It's in Chicago, basically.
Yeah, it's in Chicago.
Chicagoland.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's in the greater Chicago area. We're part of the local 11, which is almost all of central North Illinois and southern Wisconsin.
Okay.
So it's the whole Chicagoland area, and it's about 2 hours outside Chicago.
Yeah.
So it's neat. We do a little bit of work in Cook County, but
is Cook County Chicago proper?
Yeah, Chicago proper. It's one of the largest counties in the United States. There's 5 million people that live there.
That's crazy.
But it's super, super competitive, especially on the commercial front. It's very, very litigious into
high rises.
Yes,
that's a game.
It is a whole different world.
Oh, I bet.
I've talked to a few guys in the Chicagoland area that do high-rise work, and the fact that they use helicopters as frequently as they do just blows my mind. I want to do a job just for the social media video aspect of the helicopter delivering roofing materials.
It's the same as like water towers. Like that was a whole thing. There was a documentary on this a couple of years ago, but it was plumbers replacing water towers on top of buildings in New York, and I'm like, that's insane. That is insane.
This guy was, and he did a partial cost breakdown on why he has helicopters.
Yeah.
And it was so interesting to me to see, it's 30 minutes of helicopter work for $15,000, but here's the amount of materials we can pull up and take off.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, well, that makes a lot of financial sense.
Like the cranes or.
We've got a gigantic crane and you can potentially do that, but it's also, are you blocking the road?
Yep.
Your traffic flow? Yep. How long are you breaking it for? Are you blocking it for? And there's certain areas of Chicago where I want to say it's like $5,000 every hour for blocking the road.
That's what it is here in Akron. It's like 5 to 10 for right of ways. We have to deal with that when we're doing sewers.
Okay.
Yeah, if we have to carve into the road, it's a situation. All right, so not really much in Chicagoland. We're avoiding that.
Yeah, but then the rest of that, we expanded our regional grasp by, the old owner was doing maybe 150 miles, and we're closer to 500 to 600 miles.
Yeah, because
it's one of those things where, okay, if we can get a job that reaches our margin, why is it disadvantageous for us to go and bid that? And we've really worked a lot. My team out there is absolutely wonderful on trying to build a good work culture. we try to treat our guys right, give them money, make sure that it's worth their time to do travel work for us.
Yeah.
And when we took the company over,
That's like hotels. And,
yeah.
500 miles that's long.
Yeah, it is. Hotels and Airbnbs once in a while and steak dinners and just try and take care of the guys because they're giving up time away from their family. And, for a few guys, they love being away from their family, but for our average guy doesn't want to be gone from his family for too long. So we know that we're asking for something. It's a big ask.
Yeah.
And we're trying to, and I think we're doing a good job of respecting that for our guys and saying, you're giving part of your life to work for the company. Here's what we're going to give you in return. And so far, we only have a very small handful of guys that don't want to do regular travel work. The rest of the guys, generally speaking, do. We had some good conversations, sit down interviews with our employees when before we took the company over and after, and we continue to do that to make sure that we're hitting the numbers that we want to. So now, if there's somebody that needs a roof in, Memphis, Tennessee, or Nashville, or Columbus, Ohio, we can do the travel work now, as opposed to being confined so much just to one market. And as we find that our range gets bigger, the margin potentially has the ability to go up higher too, because we're able to bring our assets online for these travel jobs, as opposed to a smaller firm in that market that might not have them.
We just had Paul Reed on the show maybe 2 months ago, and he started as a storm chaser in I'm pretty sure residential, but could have been residential and commercial roofing. And they set up like 11 different locations, and I think they do 45 million now.
Oh, that's awesome.
And they turned into 100% residential, like in place. And it sounds a little bit like what you're describing, but like as they expanded bigger and bigger, they started just popping up physical shops at all these different spots, which I think you were doing that or thinking about.
Yes. Yeah. We're in the process of setting up some regional shops through the Midwest. Florida is big, one of those big ones. We've had some ideations and some game planning sessions about building a shop either. I like Orlando because it's just centrally located and it's not as competitive as Miami, but it's also very litigious. Growing up here in Ohio and doing a lot of work in Ohio, I've never seen bandit signs essentially for report bad contractors, but they're all over Florida with the 1-800 number to, is your contractor ripping you off? Report them, which from the residential landlord side of me, I love seeing them because I've been ripped off by residential contractors. I have elderly family members and friends that have been ripped off by them. So Florida's hard to get into legitimately, but once you're there, the margins are fantastic. It's Florida and California are two of the hardest states to get into for commercial roofing and residential for the most part. But once you're in, you can do very, very well.
Yeah. Yeah. He was using, I don't know if this helps or not, but he was basically using massive storm events as a reason to pop up a shop because it gave them multiple years of work. So I was talking with Chris Hoffman yesterday, and Chris Hoffman's 180 million. Most of that's plumbing, HVAC, electric, but 30 of it's residential roofing.
Oh, wow.
And he's in Salt Lake.
Okay.
He is in Salt Lake, but he's in St. Louis.
St. Louis. Okay.
And they just had a tornado apparently.
Yes.
Crazy
Oh,
tornado.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So their roofing company went from projected 20 million and like they already had a big storm, I guess, in November.
Yeah.
And they can't even do an estimate until June for residential roofing. So that's kind of crazy. That's a month. And now they can't even do estimates for months. And it's,
For residential roofs on the storm side, I've seen guys that have planning software. And I know that a couple years back in the central northern part of Illinois, they had one storm and they modeled that it was $100 million worth of roof damage in just one 24-hour period, which just blows my mind that one natural event can cause $100 million worth of damage and $100 million worth of opportunity.
Well, the St. Louis one last week was $1 billion storm.
Oh, wow.
We had one in August here, and it was 800 million.
800 million. Oh, wow.
It's crazy. But yeah, it was interesting because Paul was using these large storm events as like, okay, St. Louis is going to be fucked up for the next 2 years. Mm-hmm. We're going to go drop a location there. We're going to serve it. And in the meantime, build up work around it.
Yeah. That
I thought was kind of like a good, because the hardest part with the new location is leads. So you sort of solved it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Funny.
Yeah. Residential is something I would like to get into in the future, but it's just hard being a union firm and having our cost the way it is. In order for us to do it, we'll have to make some other play and do probably a spin-off company or something. We're not close to doing that yet. We have a play. We're being courted by another union, union politics and having conversations with them has been very interesting. But we've got a potential for one union in another state that we've talked to, and we're going to be doing work in their local organization. But we've had that conversation about, well, you're not price competitive for residential in any way, shape, or form. Mm-hmm. And they came back to us very, very positive. Because in the Chicagoland region, commercial's fine. There's so many prevailing wage jobs. You just don't have to worry about residential for the most part. Yeah. But going into these other markets, the unions have been really interested in working with us on the residential side. Yeah. So I wouldn't say that it would be impossible someday to see a union labor storm firm going after just those kinds of things. Because there's a couple game plays that we've seen that there might be some numbers that make sense. Making sure the laborers have really, really competitive wages, and we're able to make money as a company too. Yeah.
So roofing is going well. Business is growing. Mm-hmm. You're also in sort of a lot of other things.
Yeah. Laundromats, car washes. I'm still in residential real estate, some commercial, a little bit of self-storage. And then I run this news company in Southern Ohio called the Scioto Post. Yeah. My goal, my game plan at this point was to be into multifamily development, building quadplexes and small apartment complexes. And for that side, government compliance and dealing with zoning has always been a concern of mine. So I bought into and built a news agency in Southern Ohio to kind of help facilitate with that. Mm-hmm. So that's one of the fun little side businesses I have that I don't do too much content on, but I'm hoping to get into in the near future. Yeah. Central Ohio is growing like crazy, and dealing with government compliance and things like that. It's a very difficult topic. Yeah. It's I'm sure you see it on social media. Social media can really shape and change people's perspective on things. And for local communities, it's the same thing. Yeah. I bought a piece of ground to develop in Circleville in 2017, and the neighbors just absolutely hated the fact I bought it. And it was very odd because they had very weird preconceived notions on what I was going to do with it. They expected me to build like a 100-unit subdivision, and I bought it just for pure speculation, no plans whatsoever. And yet for the neighborhood to come out against me was pretty wild at that time.
Yeah, that is wild. As you think about the next couple of years, what do you think your focus looks like?
I want to be able to get more time to just do social media. I love sitting down and talking to you on a podcast like this. But right before we did this podcast, we were doing a video.
Go see a landscaper.
We got to go see a landscaper. Cool.
That's one of our visions for this show. Is we eventually we love the sit down, we love the studio. We want to do site visits and go visit these companies, and I love a good shop tour.
Yeah, and I love sitting down talking to people in different industries, just to hear their story. Yeah, because it's very much the American dream. If I can go from having a dad that drove truck to this, and someone like Sean that we were filming with earlier today was able to go from his background to running a very well landscaping company, and now he's manufacturing products in the state of Ohio.
Yeah, that was cool.
It's awesome to me to see how people can do that, but I also want to understand the story of how did you get here? Yeah, because I talk to so many people that feel so disenfranchised as 20-somethings or even 30-somethings here in the U.S., and they say, "Well, I can never succeed." And I've done a lot of coaching and consulting over my past 5 years. Of, well, why do you believe that you can't do this thing? Well, because everybody's against me. Who's actually against you? And I sit down and I have this conversation with people of what are your perceptions? How do we fix the perceptions? And how do we get you on a track to not believing these lies and doing something with your life? Because I have family members that they're doing nothing. Absolutely nothing at this point in life. And 20 years ago, when I first got to real estate, they were telling me, you're going to be a failure. You're never going to succeed. You're not going to do anything. And here I am with all these things. I'm very, very blessed to be at this point. But I also look back at them and I think, you didn't do anything in the past 20 years. And, why are there people out there that have this perception on life and everything? There's so much opportunity out there. And I don't a lot of people don't realize that I've got a twin brother, and he does YouTube. He creates products, and he's equally as successful as I am, if not more so. And he has the same not growing up great lifestyle that I have. He's, it's the brother that went to pick up trash for the city of Circleville. And yet he's in product creation, reasonable social media following, doing lots of great things. And he has succeeded too. And he's got a wife and 3 kids and spends a lot of time with them, and he's living the dream too.
Yeah.
And if we've come out of, some reasonably impoverished lifestyle, like what were the building blocks to get there?
Yeah.
Because it was never a background of, well, you could never do anything. We had people in our family that was, you'll never succeed. Just go out and get a factory job. Just do whatever you can to just scrape the bottom of the barrel. And our dad was always like, well, I have failed at trucking, so I don't have the answers on business and money and finance. You guys have to go figure that out for yourselves. But if you put some effort behind it, you'll probably figure it out. So for my brother and I, that's what we've done, and, done reasonably well at it too. And I want to be able to go out and create social media to talk to people and kind of help them think through those things and be a voice that they haven't heard before.
Yeah. What do you think? I have a couple sort of quick hit questions. What do you think over the course of your tenure has been the smartest move so far? Like when you think of like the biggest needle mover?
I'm trying to think of the person that told me to do it, and it's been several people. It was just think bigger, do something bigger. Don't confine yourself to just small opportunities. Because when I got into real estate, buying my first investment property, I had this mindset, I'm just going to buy 500 single family detached rentals. And, years ago, I had people say, don't think that's small. I'm like, 500 houses is not small thinking. And they said, no, you should be buying high-rise apartment complexes. You should be thinking bigger and better things and more profitable things, because your limit is unlimited. Just however big you can think, you can do it. You have to build the steps in between now and then, but think bigger. And I bought the laundromat in 2019. And I thought, okay, $8,500 a month. That's the biggest I can do for a revenue generator per month on a single location. Then I bought the car washes, and our top tier for that was, $400,000 between 2 locations. And then I started looking into the roofing firm, and now we're shooting for 25 million with it a year. And I've had the opportunity to talk to other people that are doing 9 figures a year. And they're all thinking of what's the next step to get me to $1 billion. And it's not that I want to try and put myself on a track to do $1 billion. I think there's a lot of advantages to that style of thinking. How do I get to the point that I have something generating this level of wealth or this level of revenue? But it's one of those things where I really confine myself to too small of thinking. And I think that's, I think in one end, that's kind of the people that I grew up with, of continue to think small, because I was very much the outlier amongst all the people I knew that did business. Everybody's talking about having a taco truck or, doing some sort of baking, you can start your own business by baking pies in your kitchen. And it's not there's anything wrong with that, but it's also, you could go buy a chain of car washes. Later today, I'm meeting with a guy that bought a chain of businesses and turned them around in a year. And it's just the bigger level of thinking that I just was not doing up until a few years ago.
I was always dumb enough to just believe I could.
Yeah. I think that I run into a lot of people that spend too much time thinking of all the reasons for them to fail, as opposed to the reasons that they could succeed, and having at least a little bit of faith in themselves and
assumed success.
Assumed success.
Yeah, that's a friend of mine calls it that. You just, anything you do, you just assume you're going to succeed.
Yeah. And I think that's good. And then I also think that, one of the other things that holds people back is, what if I fail? So what if you do fail? You can declare bankruptcy. You can get a clean slate. You can start all over again. That's very much an option in this country, as opposed to other countries where you can't do that. It's kind of nice. You can reset yourself at any point should you find the need to. So if you realize that you can just hit the reset button, it might be worth a shot to take on some level of risk. So,
yep. What's the toughest moment been over the past 8 years?
I don't know. It would be kind of a balance between, is it a personal struggle or is it a business struggle? The business struggle's probably been with the roofing company because everything's big. I have not had to deal with $1 million in accounts receivable ever.
Yeah.
And, last October, November, I had $1 million accounts receivable, and I've never had to tighten that up. And, we got past it, but it was also a situation of I've never had to experience this before. Yeah. This is new to me. And now I've got a bigger staff there than I do anything else. But for the amount of money that we're generating, it's also the easiest that I've got to. On a personal front, it's always just the balance between work and my kids. I value my 5 children highly, and it's the challenge or the struggle or the work on making sure that I'm in their life and we're doing fun things with them, and they're not feeling that I'm spending too much time away from them. Because I've run into a lot of kids that felt that their parents were working too much and they weren't getting any attention. And when they become parents themselves, they want to only spend time with their kids and they only want to spend time with their family. And I'm not saying that time with your family is bad, because you need it. It's a huge value, but it's also unrealistic for most of the human race. And I think it's important for people to find that balance of, family life and work and stuff. And they not only do they coexist, I think they also have to coexist, because otherwise you're going to be super unhappy and you're going to spend all that time working for nothing, essentially.
Yeah. Hey, everybody knows that leads are tough to come by, but what if they weren't? Service Scalers is the no BS marketing team just for home service contractors. They run SEO, PPC, LSA, and GMB campaigns that actually bring in customers and not just clicks. They've delivered me tons of leads tied to real revenue, and they can do the same for you. If you sign a 12-month contract, your first month is free. Click the link below to get started. Any advice for folks trying to start off on their entrepreneurial journey?
Just go do it. And just go do it. And if there's something critical that you just can't do, like you feel that you don't have the skill set, go find somebody that does. Because there's probably someone out there close to you that has that skill set that you need, but they also don't have the skill set the skill sets that you have. I've talked to a lot of entrepreneurs, and the vast majority of them have somebody on their team that has a different personality, and they compensate for it. And for me and my different companies, it's been going out and finding operators and partners that I can bring on board that are a different personality than me, that can help fix the things that I struggle with in the companies. Yeah.
Yeah. We think of that in stages. So like I'm a 0 to 1 or 2. Brandon, my president's, 2 to 6, and then frontline leaders are 7 to 10.
Awesome.
Yeah. Well, this was awesome. I appreciate you sharing your journey. This was a lot of fun. If people want to find you, you're pretty easy to find.
Yeah. Everything I do is at Investment Joy. So that's YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. I'm also on X, Twitter.
Fresh to Twitter.
Yeah. 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 I haven't been on Twitter. I've been on Twitter forever, but I've never really paid much attention to it. But for networking, Twitter's been incredible.
Yeah.
Done a decent bit of business off Twitter just in the past 6 months, maybe a year. Yeah, so I'm easy to find, and DMs are always open if somebody needs to get a hold of me. I try to respond to everything.
Awesome. Cool. Well, thank you, Brandon, for coming on.
Well, thank you.
If you like what you heard, make sure you like and subscribe, and go to ownedandoperated.com for more.